It's an image that's become iconic in the world of TV talent shows. A packed London theater, the buzz of expectation, and three judges, notoriously tough to impress, looking on. On stage, two teenagers are standing awkwardly in the spotlight. The boy, 17, is a large-framed kid swallowed by a casual hoodie, his eyes nervously glued to the floor. The girl beside him, just 16, seems to be his rock, giving him a reassuring look as she stands there, poised and ready. To everyone in the room, they looked like just another pair of hopefuls, maybe in over their heads. Simon Cowell, the ringmaster of this whole talent circus, wasn't hiding his skepticism. He leaned into the mic, his voice dripping with that classic Cowell condescension, and asked the boy his name. "Jonathan Antoine," he mumbled. "And the girl?" "Charlotte Giaconelli." Together they were a duo. The backing track for The Prayer started to play. Charlotte kicked it off with a voice that was clear and lovely, a solid start, but it did little to shift the unimpressed looks on the judges' faces. And then, it was Jonathan's turn. He took a breath, and the voice that came out was so huge, so rich, so unbelievably professional, it sent a shockwave through the entire room. Simon Cowell's jaw literally dropped. The audience went from polite quiet to a stunned, collective gasp. It was the kind of voice you expect at La Scala, not from a shy teenager on a reality show. It was pure TV gold, the exact kind of underdog story Britain's Got Talent thrives on. They got a roaring standing ovation, and in those 3 minutes, their lives changed forever. They instantly became the nation's sweethearts, loved not just for their voices, but for their incredible loyalty to each other. But just 2 years after, their whirlwind rise to fame, the Dream Team suddenly called it quits, revealing there was a lot more going on behind the smiles. They went from being inseparable to leading completely different lives, leaving millions of fans wondering what on earth happened. The story of their bond was inspiring, but the story of their breakup is even more revealing. So, what really happened between Jonathan and Charlotte? Before the roaring crowds and the $1 million record deal, there was just a high school classroom, a singing coach, and two kids from Essex who wanted very different things. Jonathan Antoine and Charlotte Giaconelli's story didn't start under stage lights, but in the halls of West Hatch High School. They were put together by their school's head of music, Jeanette Tomlinson, and singing coach, Jenny Ewington. It was Tomlinson who first had the brilliant idea to pair them, picking The Prayer for them to sing for their music exam, a song that would become their ticket to fame. Their personalities couldn't have been more different. Charlotte was already a pro in the making, training full-time in musical theater at the prestigious Arts Ed school in London. She was driven, confident, and knew she wanted a life on the stage. Jonathan, on the other hand, was training classically at the Royal Academy of Music, but his incredible talent was locked behind a wall of crippling anxiety. He had been relentlessly bullied over his weight, which led to a nervous breakdown and caused him to become a recluse. Music was his only sanctuary. It was a world where his voice could be huge, even when he felt small. In Charlotte, Jonathan didn't just find a singing partner, he found a friend. On stage, she was his anchor. Her confidence perfectly balanced his raw, untamed power. She understood performance, while he had a voice that she knew was one in a million. Their dynamic was just magnetic. It was her polished musical theater style combined with his powerhouse tenor that created their unique sound. They even performed at their teacher's wedding. It was clear this was more than a school project. It was a real friendship. But the pressures of the real world were about to test that friendship in ways they never saw coming. Sending a video of their performance to Britain's Got Talent was a total long shot. They had no idea the tide was about to turn with the force of a tsunami. The audition that aired on March 24, 2012, was just the start of their trial by fire. The second Jonathan's voice filled that theater, it was obvious BGT had found a superstar. But Simon Cowell, a man who built an empire on packaging talent, saw a problem. After the applause finally died down, he delivered the line that would define their entire time on the show. "This is what I think," he said, looking right at Jonathan. "Charlotte, I think you're good, but Jonathan, you are unbelievable." Then came the bombshell. "I worry, Charlotte, that you're going to hold him back." He then flat out advised Jonathan to dump his partner. The mood in the room went ice cold. The audience, who had just fallen for their story of friendship, booed Cowell's ruthless suggestion. For a second, it looked like the fairy tale was over before it even started. All eyes were on Jonathan, the shy kid who had just been offered a golden ticket but with a cruel catch. Without missing a beat, he looked at Charlotte, then back at the judges and said, "Well, we came on here as a duo, so we're going to stay on here as a duo." The crowd went absolutely wild. It was an incredible moment of loyalty, the quiet boy standing up to the biggest man in music to defend his friend. They even swapped the name of their act from Charlotte and Jonathan to Jonathan and Charlotte to prove their point. From there, they were unstoppable. They sailed into the semi-finals and performed the Italian classic Caruso. The performance was even more electric than their first. Backstage, Jonathan's anxiety was so bad he had to sit down to calm his nerves before singing. But once the music started, he was a different person. This time, Simon Cowell was a total convert. He looked at them and practically begged for forgiveness. "There is a lot at stake here," Cowell said. "And like I said at the first audition, Charlotte, I believed you were holding Jonathan back. That was the best decision you ever made. I understand your chemistry. Charlotte, you sang really, really well tonight. That was one of my favorite ever Britain's Got Talent performances." They went into the final on May 12, 2012, as the clear favorites. They reprised The Prayer, the song that started it all, and delivered another flawless performance. But in one of the biggest shocks in the show's history, the winners were announced: Ashley and her dancing dog, Pudsey. Jonathan and Charlotte came in second. The audience was stunned, but the duo was incredibly gracious. Charlotte, ever the optimist, beamed, "Oh my God, we came second out of 70,000 people, it's incredible." But in Simon Cowell's world, losing is sometimes better than winning. The public outrage over the result only made them more popular. The very next day, rumors flew that Cowell was offering them a $1 million record deal with his label, Psycho. They may have lost the battle, but they had absolutely won the war. Losing on Britain's Got Talent barely even registered as Jonathan, and Charlotte were immediately swept up in a professional whirlwind. The rumored $1 million record deal with Psycho and Columbia Records was real, and the two teenagers from Essex were officially recording artists. It was a life-changing moment, a dream turned into a signed and sealed reality. They were rushed into the studio to record their debut album, perfectly titled Together. Released just 4 months after the BGT final, the album was a collection of classical crossover tracks designed to cash in on their fame. Produced by Graham Stack, it featured their signature songs The Prayer and Caruso, but also included operatic, Italian-language covers of huge pop and rock anthems like R.E.M's Everybody Hurts and Queen's Who Wants to Live Forever. The album was a massive commercial success. It shot to number 5 on the UK Albums Chart and was certified gold, selling over 100,000 copies. They had turned their TV fame into real chart success. The media storm wasn't over. That November, ITV aired a documentary called Jonathan and Charlotte, which followed them as they traveled through Europe, getting a masterclass from star tenor Rolando Villazon and being coached by Luciano Pavarotti's own vocal coach. The industry was clearly investing heavily in Jonathan's talent. Simon Cowell even pulled them into his office to personally apologize again for trying to split them up. Their success rolled into the next year with their second album, Perhaps Love, released in October 2013. This time, they stretched their wings a bit, covering more contemporary songs like Florence and the Machine's You Got the Love. It also featured solo tracks from each of them, a subtle hint of the different paths that were opening up. Perhaps Love was another hit, also reaching number 5 on the UK charts. They had 2 hit albums, a huge fan base, and a story that had won over the country. From the outside, they were an unstoppable force. But behind the scenes, the final act of their partnership was already being written. For 2 years, Jonathan and Charlotte were the picture of musical harmony and friendship. Their entire story was built on that televised moment of loyalty. That's why the announcement in February 2014 was so shocking. In a statement on their website, the duo announced they were splitting up. The dream was over. The official story was that it was all mutual and friendly. The statement read, "We have had the most exciting journey together. To now be offered our own solo record deals by Sony Classical is the most exciting thing ever." It was framed as a positive, natural next step, but the reality was a lot more complicated. The amicable split was really the result of creative differences that they just couldn't ignore anymore. The truth is, the very thing that made them unique also doomed their partnership. Jonathan was a pure classical tenor who loved opera. Charlotte was a musical theater performer who dreamed of the West End stage. While their styles blended beautifully for a while, their long-term goals were pulling them apart. In later interviews, it became clear that Charlotte had initiated the split. She knew that to chase her own dream, she couldn't stay one half of a classical duo. It was a brave and tough decision. She was essentially walking away from a hit formula to chase her own artistic dream. Jonathan admitted their goals had diverged, saying, "We are fundamentally solo artists. We came together to do something special." The split wasn't about betrayal. It was about 2 different artists needing to grow. The BGT narrative had almost trapped them as a brand. Jonathan and Charlotte. Breaking up that brand was the only way for them to grow as individuals. And perhaps the most telling detail is what happened next. The intense friendship forged in the fire of reality TV and sudden fame didn't last. After the split, they stopped talking regularly, and the friendship faded. It's a sad but common story in entertainment. To truly find their own footing as solo artists, they needed a clean break. Their journey together was a beautiful, thrilling, and ultimately short chapter. Now, they each had to face the music alone. After the split, Jonathan Antoine stepped into his own solo spotlight. His first move was to release his debut album in October 2014, titled Tenore, the Italian word for tenor. The title was a mission statement. The album was a hit, soaring to the top of the classical artist album chart and proving his voice alone was more than enough to hold an audience. He followed that with Believe in 2016 and then Going the Distance in 2020. Today, his website boasts a string of #1 solo albums on the UK classical charts. But Jonathan's biggest journey has been a personal one. The teenager who stood on that stage, terrified and broken down by bullying, has made an incredible transformation. He's been very open about his lifelong struggles with his weight and mental health. For years, he felt like life was just happening to him, but he finally decided to take control. He started walking 10,000 steps a day and focusing on his health. He's lost a significant amount of weight, not for looks, but for his own well-being, saying, "I feel stronger and healthier than I have in 10 years. In early 2023, Jonathan shared another deeply personal piece of his story. He had been diagnosed with autism in 2022. He said the diagnosis made his whole life make sense, like the puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. Instead of seeing it as a negative, he's embraced it as a core part of who he is. His honesty about his health has made him an inspiration. He's no longer the shy boy hiding from the world, but a man who stands proudly in his truth. Today, Jonathan tours the world, has found love with his partner, and is more dedicated to his music than ever. While Jonathan was conquering the classical world, Charlotte Giaconelli went straight back to her first love, the theater. Her journey after the split was a beeline for the dream she had put on pause. She also released a solo album in 2014 called Solitaire, but her focus quickly shifted to the stage. She went back to study at Arts Ed, one of London's top drama schools, and graduated in 2018. That same year, she made her official West End debut in the original UK cast of Heathers the Musical, which proved she was a serious theater performer. From there, her stage career took off. She's appeared in a ton of high-profile shows, from The Boy in the Dress, based on a book by her former BGT judge David Walliams, to classics like Into the Woods and Carousel. More recently, she's had roles in shows like Little Shop, Of Horrors, and Todrick Hall's musical Midnight, proving her talent is both powerful and versatile. Charlotte has also connected with a new generation of fans on TikTok. She's gone viral with witty videos that nod to her BGT past, including one captioned, "Simon Cowell hated me, but then he got me Kurt Geigers for Xmas." It shows a performer who is totally at ease with where she's been, but is firmly focused on where she's going. She has built a fantastic career entirely on her own terms, proving that her tough decision to go solo was absolutely the right one for her. If you've been moved by their incredible story of friendship, fame, and finding their own way, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of your favorite stars. And let us know in the comments below, what is your favorite Jonathan and Charlotte performance or memory? The story of Jonathan and Charlotte isn't just another "where are they now" tale. It's a fascinating look at friendship, the crushing pressure of fame, and the guts it takes to forge your own path. They came onto our screens as a perfect package deal, the shy tenor with the giant voice and his loyal soprano. Their bond was real, their talent was off the charts, and their success was the stuff of fairy tales. But the very things that made them a great duo, their unique talents and individual dreams, were ultimately what pulled them apart. Their split wasn't a story of bitterness or betrayal, but a mature, necessary step toward becoming the artists they were meant to be. Jonathan has blossomed into a confident solo star and a powerful advocate for mental and physical health. Charlotte has achieved her lifelong dream of becoming a celebrated star on the West End stage. While they no longer share a stage, or it seems, a friendship, the legacy of their partnership is undeniable. For 2 brilliant years, they created something magical together, reminding everyone of the power of loyalty and the beauty of an unlikely friendship. Their story is the perfect reminder that sometimes the end of one great chapter is just the beginning of 2 more.